It's time to return to that most sus of games again, Among Us. The game where no matter what you do or attempt to do, it's only a matter of time before you'll have to face the ultimate obstacle of the game, death. Welcome back, my fellow gamers. I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, and today we're going to be focusing on some of the dumbest ways you can die in Among Us. Whether you're shot out of the airlock or murdered by the imposter, in the end, death comes for us all. Or most of us anyways. But hey, if you die, even if it is through the most embarrassing of means, at least you get to be a little ghosty ghost. Still, some of these are pretty epically dumb ways to go, so your time as a ghost may come with a cost to your ego. Let's check some of these out. Number 10. Red is sus. Those times that you call an emergency meeting because you found a corpse, witnessed a murder, or saw someone vent, you have actual evidence to bring to the table, and yet you still end up getting killed. This is because while evidence is important in the game, what's more important is the tone of your voice, how quickly, slowly, loudly, calmly, or excitedly you speak. What really matters is what people are just willing to believe. And even if you're the one who called the meeting to discuss the evidence that you brought to that table, all it takes is one person to call you sus for your bona fide, proof-filled meeting to quickly go south. And quickly you go from the person with the evidence against the imposter to the person who maybe is the imposter in the eyes of your fellow crewmates, leading to a dumb death not just in your case but in the case of your crewmates too, when they later find out you actually weren't the imposter and you were telling the truth. Although people always hate to admit that they are wrong, so they might not even come around to your evidence immediately after your death. They might even still be in denial. They might never come back to the fact that you were innocent and be like, we definitely just killed one of the imposters, yay. And you're just a ghost like, no. Number 9. Vote to skip. The early death can feel like one of the worst. I always like to look at the silver lining though when I'm a crew member. It means more time ghosting it up, which I find quite nice and relaxing. Just trying to solve murders, little ghost crew detectives, and peacefully completing tasks for fellow living crew without fear of being murdered. So nice. I wish there was just a game where I could just be a ghost. Still, this can both be an upsetting and infuriating death for some. When we're talking about vote to skip, what we're talking about is when people should have voted to skip because it's so early and there are just so many of you, but instead they voted to eject you out of the airlock. This also is just embarrassing for the team, as killing early on is never a good idea. It just tilts the odds in favor of the imposter or imposters based on sheer numbers alone. You basically just killed for them. Why would you do that? Why would you help the imposters? Well, you did. Number 8. Security cams. There is nothing sadder than when you're trying to catch a killer and you actually get killed in the process. That is the kind of death people are susceptible to when they decide to go on the security cams. Maybe your tasks are all complete, but it is a good idea to periodically move around and at least, leave the cam view for a second so you can make sure you're still safe. Now there's no one like lurking right beside you. It also helps to lull imposters into a false sense of security if you're just watching them and they were about to strike. They might have been like, I see the camera is on, and then you leave and you come back and yeah, you just see them kill someone. So yeah, stay safe, don't get killed while trying to protect others from being killed, or you'll be left feeling pretty foolish. And remember, when you're checking cams, take a break. Take a break every now and then. Number 7. Vote for the wrong person. This is an embarrassing way to go when you learn that people didn't even intend to kill you, or when you potentially voted for the wrong person yourself and as such made yourself the one to be removed. Like if you voted for someone else, you would have been tied with them and therefore you would have been safe. But yes, it is important to make sure that when you vote that you are locking in your vote for the intended person. I mean, that's why you have the whole verification step to begin with, yeah? You feel pretty awful too when you learn that your crewmates voted you out by accident via miscommunication or because they thought you were someone else. Even more awful when you were actually the imposter and a mistake on someone else's behalf resulted in your defeat. Like they weren't even suspicious of you yet, but they accidentally ejected you out of the airlock and then they were like, oh, you were the imposter, and you're like, my high IQ plays did not even matter. Cool. Number 6. Going to fix the lights alone. When the lights are out, they need to be fixed. If you don't fix them, it makes it easier for the imposter or imposters to sneak up on all of you, and also emergency meetings can't be called when sabotages are left unresolved. They have to be fixed first. However, if you go to fix the lights by yourself, don't be surprised if you die. This is one of the most dangerous things you can do when the lights are out, and yet it never gets old watching people run to fix the lights all by themselves, start to do something, and then immediately they just get stabbed. Electrical is a dangerous place, people. Y'all should know this by now. Number 5. Watch my scan. When you are sus or simply want to prove to people your innocence, you can always offer to do so by showing them a visual task, if visual tasks are turned on, like a med scan. Now, the only problem with doing this is if the person that comes to verify your scan is an imposter. Imagine, you do the scan, they watch, you feel triumphant, and then you are subsequently killed by the very person there to verify your innocence. That is cold. Hopefully someone was watching who went with you so they can appropriately avenge this ridiculously embarrassing death when they do find your corpse. Number 4. Stealth vote. This is one of the worst ways you can die. When other people are just too busy talking in a meeting and chatting about who is the most sus to actually vote. They're too busy talking and they just cannot have time to vote, leaving anyone susceptible to being voted by potentially as little as one person. That's right, one person is all it takes if no one else votes. I've seen this happen a few times in games that I have played and have also had to draw people's attention to it when I notice it happening. Be careful when leaving it down to the wire with votes, even if you are just voting to skip. Otherwise it could mean your death if someone has got it out for you in secret, regardless of whether or not you are worthy of their suspicion. Also, this is a good way for imposters to basically, like, when people are distracted, be like, and that person's gone. And then be like, oh, I thought we were all voting for that. Oh, I thought we were all gonna vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone says that. Super sus, in my opinion. Number 3. Tasking by the vent. You know this is dangerous, you know you shouldn't do it, and yet you do it anyways. Tasking by vents, especially when someone seems to be following you or creeping up on you, is a very bad news. It's a very bad idea. You are basically asking yourself to be killed in these scenarios, and yet there are times where maybe you didn't notice someone approach you, or maybe you didn't notice they snuck up on you, or I mean, hey, you know, maybe you did and you just didn't care. But like I said, you're just asking for death in these scenarios, especially if you do nothing to quickly finish up your task and then distance yourself in a scenario where you may already be suspicious of this crew member or potential imposter. Sitting ducks, my friends. Also, I get if you're in the middle of a task and you're like, well, I'd like to finish the task, but it's not worth your life, is it? Is it worth your life? Unless your task meter is super close, like, it's not worth your life. Number 2, splitting up immediately. You know those times when y'all feel confident as a group after a meeting that you know who the imposter is and you're determined to catch them in the act, so you all decide, well, if we just stick together, then we'll be able to catch them in the act, or better yet, we'll be able to force them to not act at all. Yay! But also not yay, as there are times where you all agree to do this, but then you don't make a solid enough plan as to where you're gonna go or what you're gonna do while in the meeting first, or you simply just have no follow through and you immediately just all split up, making you all vulnerable to being murdered by the imposter. So it's great to make plans, but it is all about the follow through, really, my friends. I love when people are like, we'll just all stick together. Yeah, okay, and then they all go in different directions and you're like, I guess we didn't do that. We suck, okay. And then usually you lose. That's what happens. Number 1, vote me. This one comes from a personal experience of mine and is probably the dumbest way that I have ever died. And yeah, it comes from yours truly. It was me. I was the dumbest. Put a dunce hat on me because I was the dumbest one. Oops. I did this one to myself, and afterwards I felt really ridiculous for doing it. So I'm warning you to do some math before you attempt to make this life-saving, but in reality death-certifying play. You might occasionally be so impassioned to remove suspicion from yourself when everyone is against you that you would do anything to avoid it. Like, even vote yourself out. However, I would caution you against doing so before you have a good idea of how many people are voting, and before you do some quick maths in your mind. Do those maths. Think about them, move those decimals, divide those fractions, and figure that out. After all, if you have an uneven group of people, let's say you got 5 people left or 3 people left, you could be the deciding vote. And so it might be best to wait before you lock in your actual vote, despite what you're saying, or just claim you're gonna vote for yourself, but then vote for someone else who is almost or close to as sus as you. Basically the person you think that would be your runner-up. I claimed I was voting for myself, and I intended to deliver in a bid to basically prove my innocence through, I don't know, I guess loyalty to the groupthink? I guess it was like if I vote for myself now and then I don't get out, they'll be like, oh yeah, Amanda is innocent. It was never her, because otherwise why would she have voted for herself? But as a result, I was actually the deciding vote in what I remember as being, I think it was a 3-2 vote scenario, and I basically ended up killing myself. So yeah, math everyone. Math. It is useful for something. So many unfortunate ways to die that tell people just what level of play IQ wise you are actually at. I cannot deny that while I've had some high IQ plays, I've also had some pretty bottom of the barrel, basically like negative IQ plays as well, where I was like, why did I do that? That was really dumb. Sometimes it's also based on somewhat of luck in this game, and sometimes winning is also based on just who you're playing with, how they interact with you, how you measure up, and sometimes how they interact with each other. What do you think are some of the dumbest ways to die in Among Us? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Scary Dragon Pokemon. In the Elixir comments, I find it weird that I am watching Detective Pikachu on my TV, and I find this. That is weird. I feel like your computer is listening. It's listening to you, or your phone, whatever device you're watching on. Anna Ammons shares, today is my birthday. Oh my goodness, well a happy belated birthday to you. You wrote this comment 4 days from when I'm filming this thing, so it's belated, but yeah, happy birthday! Happy birthday, I hope you had a good birthday. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feels shouted out in a future video. This has been Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host, Man McKnight, reminding you to keep on gaming on. Pew pew!